Well, hello everybody. I'm John. This is the Midnight Paint and Body channel. And this is our next big project. So this is a 1966 Ford Mustang. It's a 289 automatic. It's actually very complete. You know, it's rotten, but it's straight. And it's pretty cool. So a lot of this car has already been gone through. It actually runs very well. Looks like it's got all new front suspension. Actually belongs to a friend of mine's girlfriend. So this is not going to be a full restoration. What we're going to be doing for now is just a bunch of metal work. Basically the whole back end of the car. So quarter panels back, floor pans. As of the moment, that's all we're doing. So you've probably seen this thing kicking around in the background of the videos. It's been here for a while. It's you know, one of those cars. It's not a rush, but I have to get on the wall eventually. So I'm kind of caught up a little bit with the weekly work right now, so I figured I've got a few days I'm going to get going on this one. And then, of course, we're back on the Hornet soon. We'll be back on the 52 soon. And all the other usual stuff I work on. So I think the first thing we'll do, I'm going to dig out all these parts I've been collecting. And I'll show you what we have to start with. So let's just have a quick look at what we have for parts. So you're going to get a quick rant out of me first here, guys. Just a warning. So, have a look at this beautiful quarter panel. It's completely twisted and wrinkled. And I don't know how well the light's picking it up. I actually already pushed the dent out of here, but this quarter panel is destroyed. This is what Day and Ross Shipping sent me. So I couldn't get this left quarter panel from my regular supplier, so I had to get it from the Mustang depot in Ontario. Now, unfortunately, I'll just give you the story real quick. So the box that it came in, actually this box here, box didn't look damaged. There is a small little cut. It's actually right there. And it looks like a knife jabbed through it. But whatever jabbed through it, that's right where that quarter panel was sitting. And it tacoed that thing. It destroyed it. I was busy when the freight got dropped off. I didn't look at it. I didn't open it and look at it. As soon as the guy drove away, I opened it up and looked at it, and I was like, holy shit, this thing is wrecked. So I get hold of the Mustang depot. They tell me I have to get hold of Bandstra, who delivered it. I get hold of Bandstra. They tell me I got to get hold of the head office. I get hold of head office. They tell me I got to get hold of Day and Ross because they were the original shipper. It's got to be all done online. Weeks and weeks. It's been a month now of constant phone calls and emails trying to get this dealt with. They kept telling me the Mustang depot has been reimbursed. Just reorder the part. They've been reimbursed. I kept phoning them and they kept saying, no, we have no record of that. I even had one guy there who, I'm going to be blunt, he was an asshole. He told me, well, you're obviously just trying to order parts without paying for shipping. It's like, are you serious? So finally I did get a dude at the Mustang depot named Lloyd. He was helpful. But I fought with Day and Ross for weeks and weeks and weeks. I finally have reordered a quarter panel from a different supplier. And then after I threatened them with going to Consumer Affairs and whatnot, I finally get an email back saying, oh, we've credited your account at the Mustang depot. We can't reimburse you, but you have a credit. So now I'm $600 into another quarter panel. I have a credit with them, but, well, we're probably going to need more parts for this car. So that is my rant. So, yeah, this thing is, yeah, it's pooched. Anyway. So, ask me what I think about Day and Ross. Not happy. They were the most unhelpful, worst customer service I've experienced in my entire life. But anyway, let's get back to the parts. So, we have front floor pans. You see, these are full length. It's not a full floor pan. These are the seat mounts. So, you see those pieces there. So we have all that. That actually came with the car. When she bought the car, I guess it came with those. All of the stuff I have ordered. So here's our right quarter panel. So these are full quarters. So partial quarters will typically come up to this body line. Full quarters will go right up to the trunk opening. Now the nice thing about Mustang stuff, it is dirt cheap. Like all these parts for like $1.50. Okay, not that cheap. They're pretty damn cheap. That quarter panel, the one that's damaged, it was only like $170, but it was $425 shipping, and that's from Ontario to here in British Columbia. So that's why, I mean, if it was just the cost of the part, I would just eat it and move on with life, but it's an awfully expensive shipping. So next, we have a taillight panel. So there's our full taillight panel. This one might not be too bad, but by the time you drill out all of the spot welds and everything involved, this is like $100, so it's less labor to actually just get a new one. These are our inner wheelhouses. These are outer wheelhouses. So these pieces here, the inner obviously inside, the outer is the one that attaches to the quarter panel. And then these trunk dropouts here, that's what we have here. Can't open the trunk right now, but Mustangs don't have a full trunk floor because they actually have the fuel tank as part of the structure. So that's all our parts. So I'm going to tidy up a little bit. I'm actually just going to do some tear down. I'm going to get the tail lights, back bumper, everything off of this thing. And then we will go from there and see where we're going to start cutting. So here's a little check-in, guys. I haven't done much, but I have been stripping the car apart. So I've got everything pulled apart. Now this gives you kind of a good idea of just how simple these cars are now. So our trunk dropout, I'll bring one over here to show you. So this piece here is basically this piece here. It's the dropout, so it drops down the side, and then the bottom of the quarter panel. You know, when you have a bottom of a quarter panel, it will weld along to the bottom of that. Our inner and outer wheelhouses, so those are going to be replaced, as well as this back panel and the quarter panels. So it's yeah, these are not they're not real difficult. So they're, yeah, pretty basic stuff. So I have the car jacked up on jack stands on the suspension, and I've also put a jack in the middle of each rocker panel. So once I start cutting structure out of the car, that's going to stop it from being able to flex, kind of taco in the middle, which it can happen. But the way I have it sitting, it should be fine, because we're not touching the frame rails, but once everything's cut away from the frame rails, there's not going to be a lot of structure. So I did actually just order rocker panels for it. I didn't know for sure if we were going to need them. The worst spot seems to be here, but I think the more we get into them, they're going to be bad. And honestly, these were like $97 a piece or something. So for the cost of the parts on this thing, figured we may as well get them. I'm sure the customer will be okay with another couple $100. It's not shouldn't be a deal breaker, but we are trying to keep this one, you know, pretty budget friendly. So I'm going to start doing some trimming. Now there's some things like say like this jack mount. Now these support pieces we need to reuse, so they're spot welded to this back panel under the floor. So I'm just going to start by taking those out. Stuff like this will probably get welded onto the new floor pan, and I'll take a few pictures in here just so I know for reference where everything goes back into place. So I'm just going to do some of that simple stuff, and I'll bring you guys back when we're doing more actual cutting the car apart. So now we start seeing what we're working with, getting that quarter panel, or the chunk of the quarter panel out of the way. There's still a lot more trimming. Now I do have full quarters that go all the way to the trunk opening for this side. That damaged one is the same, but I couldn't get another full quarter panel for the left side, so I actually have a quarter panel skin coming, which only goes to here, which is fine. So we'll go right along this edge, so we will be keeping this part of this quarter so far anyway. So that's what I've ordered, because that's all that's out there. But this shows you how our trunk dropouts fit. I'd say that's straightforward. You know, the wheelhouses don't look terrible. I mean, we still have the lip of the quarter panel on there. Usually by the time you take that lip off, the lip of the outer wheelhouse will be gone too. Of course, it's all gone on the bottom. So that's probably the next piece we'll start trimming out. Now you see what we have here. This is our roof support. So that obviously is important. So we're gonna have to drill out all these spot welds there, all spot welds around here, and we'll probably separate this outer first. I mean, the inners aren't, well, yeah, the inners are rusty. You know, you could probably get away with, no, I was gonna say you get away with not replacing the inners, but by the time you cut these trunk floors out, I bet you there's nothing left underneath, so no point trying to save an hour. So yeah, I'm gonna continue on a little bit, just drilling some spot welds. It's almost the end of the day, so I'm not gonna get a whole lot more done, but I'll keep you guys posted with the progress. So with our outer wheelhouse just kind of trimmed out of the way, it kind of shows you what you're up against with the inner wheelhouse. Now this one is welded to the frame rail all the way around the perimeter there. It's welded to the inner structure of the car. It's going to be tricky to get in behind those spot welds behind this support, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And then the other thing with the inner wheelhouse, Now it's also holding up the trunk support, so that's something we always have to be careful. See, now it's got a crack in it. So as soon as we let that go, that trunk support's going to want to drop. But I'm kind of leaving the trunk lid on for fitting as we go along. And the other thing is the seat back support. Yeah, arthritis in the fingers. It's a two-hand operation for these old cars these days. Open the doors. So our seat back support there. And my phone is ringing, so I'll leave that there and we'll come back to the next thing. Okay, I had a ringing phone. So yeah, a lot of this stuff, this is where we need to start being careful. Now, even though we're going to be cutting all of this out eventually, I've blocked up the back end now. So when I start releasing things in here, we're still staying square, even though it's all coming out, but it gives us a reference. So I think I'm going to actually, at this point, I'm going to cut this trunk floor out. Now, we need to do this one kind of nicely. We'll drill out these spot welds because this panel stays. But that'll give us more access to the inner fender. And then we'll start with this stuff. And I'll get this trailer hitch off here at some point and get it out of our way. I'll have to ask if that's staying. It's kind of awesome to have a trailer hitch on your Mustang. You can tow stuff. Chewing away at this trunk floor here, getting most of it out. As you can see, we've exposed the frame rail. It's also exposed a little bit of a problem. I think we're going to have to do a bit of repair on this frame rail. Now, keep in mind, guys, this isn't a full-on restoration. You know, we're not putting this car on a rotisserie. It's not getting, you know, a perfectly painted chassis. This is just a cool driver. It's going to be super solid, a bunch of new sheet metal. So we're not putting whole new frame rails in. You've seen me do that on cars before. That's a major thing. Not something I really want to get into on this car, but I mean, it doesn't need them. It will definitely need a piece, but that's easy to make. But the reason I turned the camera on, you Ford guys will probably know better than me, or guys that know these cars. So this trailer hitch, I mean, it kind of looks homemade, but this frame rail has actually got this sleeve right inside. Now, there's no way you can put that in there once the car is welded together. So that's there from the factory. So I just found that super interesting, that this point for the trailer hitch is reinforced from the factory. So is this a factory trailer hitch? Let's see at the back here. Yeah, I can't even see exactly where it's bolted at the back yet, but yeah, quite interesting. Just thought I'd see if anyone knows about that, because that's kind of a neat thing. So, a little more digging and cleaning it up. I've got most of the inner and outer wheelhouses out. I've got a little bit more trimming to do. Yeah, our trunk dropout is out. So now you remember when I said that I am not going to put frame rails in this car because it doesn't need them? Well, I just ordered frame rail pieces. So turns out that, I mean, yeah, this would have been easy enough to make a channel to put right there, but as we go back, it's rusted through here, and it's actually rusted through in the back. It's a little worse right at the back. So you can get frame rail pieces. I think you probably go to about here. I did actually exact same thing on that Chevy 2 I did a while back, quite a while back, but I actually got frame rail sections for that as well. So there's no need to replace the entire frame rail, so we'll get those pieces. So, since yesterday I've ordered those and I've ordered rockers, so we're not going to be able to put this together right away until I get more pieces. So for now, I'm probably just going to carry on. I'm going to start taking stuff apart on the other side, so I probably won't record for a bit because it's all the same as this side. But I'll bring you guys back when we get to, well, more interesting stuff. Alright, so I had to show you guys this one. So somebody actually, at some point in this car's life, actually torched holes in the, I guess this is like the window regulator support. This has the tracks and everything in it for the rear windows. So they probably couldn't get to the bolts, I'm guessing, for this trim. So I think they probably did that to get the trim off. And then you can see it had a whole bunch of holes drilled here, probably for pulling a dent out, old school bodywork. And then whatever this is, you can see it had stuff kind of running down the inside. So whatever it is that was running down the inside of it, I don't know if that's, I guess it's actually just body filler. That is too. So that is some old school Bondo. Oh yeah, some of the neat stuff you find on these old cars. I guess they did what they had to do. But I think it would have been easier to take the window mechanism out. Now these quarter windows are always a pain in the butt, no matter what brand, but I mean they do come out. Well, here's a little end of the day check-in on the Mustang. So, but passenger side mostly ripped apart. So still a bunch of trimming and stuff to do, but mostly I just wanted to get this thing torn down to see what else I was going to need. And yeah, turns out I did need those frame sections and rocker panels, so those are coming. So it is the end of the day. Figured I would show you guys where I'm at. I'll bring you back when I get back on this thing, which might not be for a couple days. Well, hopefully tomorrow. Half a day tomorrow. I'll see you then. Well, I'm back on the Mustang here, guys. Now, I know for you, in the last frame I was still working on this, but for me, it's been a couple of months, actually. So, we were waiting on parts. I finally got all the parts, but I've been so busy I have not been able to work on it. So I think what we talked about in the last one was needing frame rail sections. So that is these guys here. So that's how they come. You see the spring mount in the back there, and you can see they're kind of sleeved at the front. So we're gonna cut off our old frame rail, and we're gonna put this one in the same spot. The other thing we're waiting on was rocker panels. So here's our full rocker panels. And the other thing was a quarter panel. I don't know if I had this last time I was filming. So I think I mentioned that all I could get was a partial quarter. So the full quarters, like I talked about, they go right up to the trunk drip rail. So this partial quarter panel is exactly the same, but you can see it doesn't have the top. So here's the damaged one, and here's our partial. It also doesn't have this little tail light piece. None of that is really a big deal because that partial comes up to here. So we'll trim this back, and we're just going to be welding. We'll probably weld right on this body line. And then we'll either save this portion, or I might even cut the one out of that smashed quarter that I received and weld that in so it's new, because we're putting in a new tail panel and everything as well. That's probably less work than cutting this one out and saving it. So that is where we're at. I finally have some time this week to work on this car. It's partway through the day Monday, so let's see how much we can get done on this week. I'm going to tidy this thing up, kind of inventory all my parts, and see where we're at. You might notice I've got a new light. Can't look directly at it. So, just real quick, I did a short video on this, guys. Tool Lab sent this to me. This thing is awesome. I'll turn the light off so I can actually show it to you. It's got one more piece for the tripod as well, and this extends. This is 30,000 lumens, waterproof, and I can take out this one screw and just take this whole top off, and then it's just a portable light rather than being on the tripod. I'm just showing you that real quick because if you want one, there will be a link in the description, and you can use this discount code to get 5% off to buy one. And I'm still blinded from looking at it. This thing works fantastic. I'm super impressed with it. So, well, yeah, it's killer, and I can take it off the stand and put it right in the car when I'm working on it. I was using it on my El Camino on the weekend, which, I don't know if I really showed you guys this car before, but I just put a floor in it. Just about done. I'm not videotaping that one. It's honestly, it's kind of nice work on something to myself at night. I crank the tunes, and it's a little bit of a break from my usual. But anyway, I'm going to tidy up, guys, and let's get to work on the Mustang. So I have decided I'm going to start with the rocker panels. I wasn't sure how I was going to go about this. So I figured we're doing the rocker panels first. I will do this rocker, get it welded in, then our structure is solid. Go on the other side, weld the rocker in, and then we can move on to the floors, work our way back. So now you can see by looking at our new rocker. This is of course a full rocker panel. Now these weld now to our A pillar, so spot welds along the A pillar. They are spot welded all the way along the inner rocker. They're spot welded, of course, along the pinch weld at the bottom. And the B pillar. So now, of course, we are going to be releasing these structural pillars. So, you know, the whole roof, the entire structure of the car can come down. It can move at that point. So I am just going to take some basic measurements and write them down so that I know when I get my new rocker in place and get all this situated back in place that we're going to have the correct door opening. And of course we can fit our door as well to make sure. Then that's of course something you will always do before welding anything. I didn't take the fenders right off because we're just doing the back end of this car for now. So eventually it'll get new front fenders. Right now we're not worried about it. Our quarter window. Now I shouldn't have to take the entire quarter window out. I might. I've unbolted here. I should be able to just take those two bolts out of this bottom bracket. And that might be all I need to do, and I can actually leave that there. I'll make that call when I get to it. I know these things are always so finicky. I'd like to leave them in if I can. But yeah, we'll see. I might end up just taking it out, but we'll see how we move along here. I of course have the car supported on its suspension, the rear axle, the front of the leaf spring here. As we move back, we're going to have to make changes because we're going to be replacing those frame rails, so I'm going to have to unbolt the rear of the suspension and drop that suspension down. So then we'll be supported here. That's another reason I want to keep all the structure solid here and move back. So I'm just going to start drilling out some of these spot welds, guys. I'm not going to record a bunch of the boring stuff or else these videos go on too long, but I'll bring you back when I start cutting this rocker off. And I will probably, you know, drill, take a grinder, you know, air chisel, whatever, and just cut pieces out of the way and work my way back. It's usually the easiest. You know, if you're going to try and get this out in one nice piece, forget about it. It's easier just to trim. You know, I can cut in here, get the rocker out of the way, and then worry about drilling those spot welds and get, you know, get the remainder out. So that's the way I will do it. So have a look at this. For as rusty as this car is, I was considering splicing the front of the rocker in so that I don't have to get into all this structure, and it's welded in behind as well. So I thought I'd get the first piece cut out and see what kind of condition we have. You know, look at these things. And these days they used galvanizing on all the lower panels. A lot of these 60s cars. you know, had I known it was that good, I might even have just, well, let's say I might have considered just replacing this piece. But, I mean, we have the rockers, so. And then when I was cutting, I saw there was 2 spot welds here, so that told me there was going to be a brace in there. So there was a brace right there that I didn't want to cut through, so I'll have to drill out the welds, get that out nice. But I think I probably will actually cut this new rocker to fit and probably splice it in, because there's no point disturbing all of this if we don't have to. So I have got our rocker panel pretty much completely trimmed off. I left the front, as I was saying at the start. I will probably kind of cut this one to fit a little jigsaw there. Kind of slip it in and we'll weld it up on the end, and then we'll just plug weld the same as the factory had, top and bottom. So I'm basically going to start trimming this one up. This will all get some weld through primer before a new panel goes over it. Yeah, this is pretty straightforward, this part. It's just going to take a little extra cutting and trimming to get it just right, because I chose to keep that front on there. But yeah, like I said, because I can't really get at those welds up inside, it just made sense to leave that like that. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to start trimming. So I have just taken my time, trimmed back the rocker panel to fit my little notch I made at the front. There we are. I need to just kind of put that into place as I weld it. Sometimes these panels you can kind of work your way around, do a few tacks on them, and then work your way down, and the heat will kind of help them fit to the original sheet metal a little. But this actually fits pretty damn good to that rocker when you hold it up into place. So now this has to come up just a little bit. I won't weld this until I put the door back on to make sure we're in the right spot. Now this rear flange on the rocker just needs to be flat with this flange, because then when we put our wheelhouse back in, it's going to weld to both of those. So pretty straightforward. So I'm going to clean this up, get some weld through primer on the bare metal, and actually before I weld it on, I need to weld this support. Go that way. Go that way. Anyway, I need to weld that to the inside of the rocker, and it adds structure to the door pillar, the B pillar area. So that's a thick piece of metal, that one. So I'm going to clean that up, weld that in, and then we can tack this rocker panel in place. Oh, I didn't want to put this thing in there rusty. Rust will just transfer. So I just whipped it outside real quick there. Dusted it off with the sandblaster. There we go. So there's our brace welded to the inside, and I've just gone around and punched a series of holes around the flanges on the panel, where we're going to use those holes just to plug weld the panel back on. So that's basically, that's just reproducing a spot weld. You know, if you don't have a spot welder, which most people don't have one, You just drill a hole, weld it up with a MIG. It's just like spot weld. Alright. Well, it is the next day. It is Tuesday today. So, yesterday, guys, I did end up hanging the door to ensure my rocker gap was good. It was bang on. So I have fully welded the rocker at this point, except for the B-pillar, because I just want to be absolutely sure when I start fitting other things. So I've got it partially welded. It could be moved if I had to. I don't think it'll have to, but you just want to be sure. We'll weld it along the bottom. So there's where I spliced it in. Yeah, we'll plug welds along the top. So pretty straightforward, but it does, even something like that, you know, they take a fair bit of tinkering around and fitting. So I think my plan for today is to move on to a floor pan. So these pans, actually, the owner of the car said that when she bought it, it came with these floor pans and those seat supports. So that's cool. We're going to use them. Now, these are, of course, a partial pan. These are going to go up into the foot area just a little bit, but that should be fine. I think we're good up there. And these are going to come basically back to here, so it should take care of most of our rust. Now, these ones don't have a full transmission tunnel, so we'll be cutting into the tunnel part way up, so we'll be maintaining the centerpiece. That's fine. Probably will just overlap these ones. You know, I'll probably leave a 1/2 inch of metal and then weld to that. You know, every job is different. If this was a, you know, numbers matching GT500, you know, collector car, then yeah, you're going to want to cut them in and butt weld them and have a perfect finished floor inside and out. On a car like this, I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't have to be good, it's going to be good, but it's, yeah, you got to make that call. This edge, straightforward, we'll just drill holes in this and plug weld to the inside. So there's our edge right there. And so, actually, well, yeah, I guess our El Camino, my El Camino. So I just did floor pans in this one. I'll just show you. So these ones were a little different. These are actually 2 sides. These were full length. I couldn't actually get these in the car in one piece. If I had taken the back window out, I might have been able to, but there was just no way to get these in and turn them and get them flat, so I actually cut them. But I cut them right over the floor brace. So where I welded it together there, from underneath, you will never see that because the brace is right there. It doesn't really matter on this car. I mean, it's not a restoration, it's just an old car I want to get going. But these ones are a full tunnel. So you actually join the 2 pans, and then I welded a seam up the middle. And that kind of brings me to a point too, I'm getting off track a little bit here, about restoring cars. Now you see, now something like this, obviously yes, this car needs a restoration. I just want to get it running and driving, get it solid. I'm going to go through all the mechanical, and then one day I'll do the body. Actually, this is the bad side. This is the other side's actually not bad. But kind of a point, if you want to restore a car for yourself, you know, we've all seen those cars on Marketplace or whatever. Guy will buy a classic car, plan to restore it, and they take them apart, every single nut and bolt. And then 3 years later it's for sale in bags and boxes. Because it's just too much. It's too much for a working guy to try and take something like this on, unless you've really got a lot of spare time. If you want to do something like this for yourself, do what I'm doing. You know, pick something. Say, I'm going to do the floors. You know, don't take the whole damn car apart. Do the floor pans. See how that goes. Then maybe you want to move on to something else. I mean, maybe it's simple as taking a fender off. Let's just take a fender off, do the metal work, see how that goes. Just don't take the whole damn car apart. I mean, if you've done it before and it's what you do, you restore cars and you know what you're doing, but if it's your first time, just pick something. Just my advice. Anyway, there's my morning advice. Oh, and I want to mention again just how awesome this light is from eTool Lab. Link in description, discount code if you want one. This thing is killer. I'm loving this. My shop doesn't have the best light, so that thing is really, really good. So I'm going to start on our floor pans here. I'm going to start by taking the seat mount out to get it out of the way. And then we can kind of set our pan in there and see where we want to cut and go from there. So we got our seat mount cut out. I'm going to lay the pan in. Just one thing I was going to mention, guys, that I meant to mention when I started talking about floor pans. Before you start cutting, always make sure you know what you're cutting underneath. You could have brake lines, fuel lines, wiring, floor braces. In this case, it's the K-member, the frame rails. This side is completely clear other than this frame rail, which goes right here. So I know that, so I know not to cut through there. We are going to have to separate those spot welds to pull this floor pan off of that frame rail. But for now, we're just going to try setting this guy in there. Try to see where we want to cut. See how immediately that lines up beautifully with all the factory holes, factory plugs. It's actually, you know, these parts are usually pretty darn good. Oh, and some dumbass cut a little bit too high right there. That would be me. So that's going to be a little extra welding, not a big deal, but I was going to cut the floor out around that floor, that seat brace, and then I decided just to cut the brace out. So yeah, you can see I've already made a little mistake there. But now, so we just want an idea my phone's ringing. But that's just so I know not to cut too much. Hello, Midnight Paint and Body. Okay, just had to take a phone call there. So now that I've got an idea where our new pan is going to lay, I'm going to basically cut this floor out, but I will cut, I don't know, an inch, maybe more below that line, and then I can see here, I should turn the camera so you guys know what I'm talking about. So you can see here we have a, I'm assuming for a seat belt, a threaded hole here, and you can see the spot welds. So that tells you there is a brace in behind there, so I'll need to see. It's probably just a piece like that, but it might go all the way around. So we're either going to need to cut around it, or we're going to need to remove it from this old floor and weld it to the new floor. So now this is what we always check. So you can see this is this is just a little square piece where the seatbelt bolts, but we've also got this emergency brake cable mount right there, so we want to make sure that we don't cut into that. But I think that'll be above where we're cutting. And then you see also, you know, just all the stuff you really need to watch for, guys. Oh yeah, and here's our subframe pieces, so we also don't want to cut through any of this stuff. Just be extra careful. Best case, you cut an emergency brake cable. Worst case, you cut a fuel line, and then you got a real problem. Actually, there's a funny story. When I first got in the trade, or I hadn't been in the trade long, the shop I was at, we were doing this beautiful yellow, like a 70 Chevy truck, and I was doing cab corners on it, and I didn't check inside, so I'm cutting out the cab corner on this thing, and all of a sudden something, I didn't know what it was, something starts leaking. I'm cutting and it just starts leaking out of the cut, and I was like, holy crap, what have I done? So I ripped the door open, pulled the seat ahead, and the owner had a jug of 10W30 sitting in the cab corner behind the seat, and when I cut into the cab corner, I cut through the jug of oil, and that's what was pouring out. So I learned my lesson there. Anyway, let's get cutting. So I've been cleaning up in our floor pan area. As you can see, I've got everything cut out. So see, we've exposed our frame rails, our inner rocker where we're going to be welding the new pan to, and then around the perimeter. Before I put any primer in there, and I'll probably get in and kind of brush paint black some of the bottom of those rails and actually inside those rails before I put the pan over top. I'm going to show you one more trick to these things. So now, of course, we don't know exactly where our frame rail is. I know it's right around there. So we're going to get underneath the car again. So anytime I do these, I will get my pan in place. Hopefully you guys can see there. So I'm just going to throw the camera underneath the car. Hopefully that works. You'll get the idea. But I am just going to scribe around the rails, and then I'll know to drill just inside those scribe marks some holes in the floor so I can weld them to these frame rails. So I've got some weld-through primer and all the bare metal. I have painted the inside of the frame rails and the outside just with a brush with some black rust paint. Just makes everything a little cleaner and nicer. Well, let's see if my holes line up. Beautiful. So now just a whole bunch of welding. So I'll probably weld the entire perimeter. And then in here you can see I have punched holes along that flange. And those will all just be plug welded right to that inner rocker. That's pretty much all there is to it. Easy breezy. So I'm going to go grab the welder and get to burning this thing in. So here is one floor pan completely welded. So I ended up welding the complete perimeter of it. It's plug welded along the rocker, and I just plug welded the top there. I'm going to give this all a really quick coat of primer just on the bare metal and give it a nice bead of seam sealer, just so we know it's all sealed up, and then we'll do the same on the inside underneath the car. So I'll show you that part when we get to it. I'm just kind of rushing through this today, guys, because honestly I'm just trying to make some miles on this car while I have the time. So kind of keep bringing you back for check-ins. You know, no point keeping the camera rolling for a whole bunch of welding. So sorry if I'm skipping ahead too much, but I'll try and keep you along for every step at least. So here is one floor pan welded in. So yeah, fully welded. I just blew a little primer around the edge and a quick coat of seam sealer. It'll just seal up any little porosity, any little gaps there might be. I will do the same on the inside, but I'll wait until I've got the other side welded in. So yeah, we'll coat where it's attached. You know, areas like this here, we'll do the same. We'll give it some seam sealer, and then I will end up painting, of course, the whole underside just with this black rust paint. It's nice and durable, and it, yeah, I mean, it'll look decent enough for what we're doing here. We're not building a show car with this one, but you know, it's going to be nice enough where you're going to look underneath and it's, you know, it'll look good. So I'm going to flip over and do all of this over again on that side, so I won't record that, but I'll bring you guys back when I get done with that, and we'll move on probably to the wheelhouses, actually to the frame rails. We'll be doing partial frame rails, so as soon as I get this floor done, frame rails will be next. Hey, I am back. So it is actually, what is it, Thursday today. About 10:30 Thursday. So honestly, this has taken me a little longer than I expected. I thought I'd be farther along by this point in the week. I started this Monday morning and I've got rockers and floor pans done. So yes, driver's side is welded in, brushed a little seam sealer around the perimeter. I still need to weld the seat bases in, but I'll do that after. And then once I'm kind of done in here, I will probably wire brush everything else, just clean everything up as nice as I can, and we'll just coat it all with some black paint. But I think my next step is to move on to our frame rail sections. So, like I showed you in the beginning, so we're replacing the rear part of these frame rails up into round about there. So I am going to do a bunch of measuring, do a bunch of leveling. I'm going to get the car sitting just right. We'll level it in a few places to make sure we're where it needs to be. We'll measure our frame rails so that when I put the new pieces in, we're at exactly where we need to be back here. But I do need to level everything out, and then I need to unbolt these rear shackles and let that diff drop. So I'm going to need to take my stands out of the rear differential and probably put them up under the torque boxes at the front of the springs where I have those jacks kind of leveling things now. So I'm going to do all of that, get this thing sitting where I'm happy, and we'll start cutting into those frame rails. And so I have got our rear of the leaf springs unbolted from the frame rails. I've got the car supported under the torque boxes, and I've got it actually dead level in the back end. And that's not just going off the floor, it's going off a level and a bunch of measurements. No. Not super precise, but I've taken measurements this way, you know, between the rails, from the floor to the rails, cross measurements. So from here to here, here to here, cross measurements for when I put them back in. And yeah, from the floor on both rails, they're actually both dead even, 28.5 inches from the floor to here. So that's going to get us, yeah, where we need to be. So these are obviously pretty straightforward. So you can see they're flanged in just a bit, so we can cut the old frame rail, and then we just put that inside the old frame rail, just that little bit, and we weld her up. So I'm going to basically hold that up there and figure out where I want to cut. Like everything, I always cut a little big and then trim back until I get it to fit. I just hate cutting things too big. You've seen me do it. I do it sometimes, just like everybody else. But it's better, in my opinion, just to, yeah, leave some extra material and then trim until you've got it right where you want it. Now this, I'm obviously going to be undoing the back panel here. So we're not reusing any of this. I have just kept all of this in place to keep everything square. So, and to give us, you know, good measuring points. But now from this point, yes, this frame rail is getting cut out. It'll be cut out here. So this back end is just going to be flopping in the breeze. From that point, I've had people ask me many times doing a lot of these old cars, why don't you brace them up? Well, when you get to this point, there's nothing left. There will be nothing to brace to, because we are not using any of this. We're going to be using the top of the left quarter, and because we're doing it that way, the one full quarter we have, I might even trim it and do it the same way, but we're not there yet. I kind of usually figure these things out as I go. A few little things to look out for. I mean, this side we do have a fuel line, so I'm going to need to well, that's an exhaust hanger, so we can unbolt that exhaust hanger, and then we'll be able to pull that fuel line out of the way completely for cutting and welding. And this one too, there's an exhaust hanger hanging there, so I'm going to see if that'll unbolt. Yeah, we'll throw those in a box. I can't see that those would be reused. I don't know if those are factory or if it matters, but anyway, I'm going to mark this frame rail. I'm going to first unbolt those, and then we'll get going. perfect. That is bang on right there. We still need to do the cross measurements. And from the floor measurement, now I can trim a little more and we know that's in the ballpark. Floor. Oh, that is actually perfect. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, I'll probably just put a small tack weld somewhere to keep this solid. I will keep checking my measurements, make sure this is staying right where it belongs, and we'll just kind of work our way around until it's fully welded. So here is one frame rail welded on. So as you saw, it's pretty simple. There's no reason to really overthink the heck out of these things. As long as you take lots of measurements and get it in the right spot, it is just as solid as it was before. Well, more solid than it was before with the rusty one, but so I just kept, you know, I would weld one side, check my measurements. You know, you still, if a guy needed to, you could use a ratchet strap or a jack, push it out, pull it in if you weren't bang on, but it stayed true right where I wanted it. So I am going to now just go over to that side, do the same thing again, and once we have both rails on, maybe we'll put this lower panel on just to keep them true. I won't weld anything solid in the back. We'll probably put it together with some self-tappers just to hold everything square, and then as we move along, putting quarter panels and so on the car, then we'll just move on to welding everything up. So here's both of our frame rails welded in. So everything measures up beautifully, so I'm super happy with that. Yeah, like I said on the other one, they're very straightforward. Just take your time, lots of measuring. Now we've got a new tail light panel and the lower panel. So that other panel is this one right down there. So I think I just want to mock up that lower panel. So I'm basically just going to hack this out of here because we're not really using any of this. You know, stuff like this tail light panel, I mean, yeah, you could probably reuse it. You see it's had a lot of holes bondoed over, it's got dents, and by the time you trim one of these panels, drill out all the spot welds and separate everything, it is so much faster to just put a new one on. And I think that was like $100. These are, yeah, I mentioned before too, the parts are very inexpensive on this car. So I've gone ahead and fully welded on that rear cross support. So now our frame rails are super solid. They are right in place, right where they're going to live. So our next piece, I should actually put the camera up. Hold on to it here. Bear with me one moment. Okay, hopefully I've got you guys where you can see. So our inner wheelhouse this guy is going to go right around there. We're close enough, that's not right in place, but so that's where our inner wheelhouse goes. But first we have to put in our trunk dropout. So this actually needs to go in before that wheelhouse. So we'll do that. But what I'm running into here, now this is something I discussed with the customer. Now, we have enough to work with here. This flange isn't perfect, but it's actually still nice and solid. So I can clean that up, weld to that. But as we get to this area, we don't have the flange there anymore. And you can see, obviously, this section is rusty. Now the rest of that pan is okay. I didn't really want to change that pan. You know, in hindsight, yeah, maybe we should have, but you get into changing that, now we're into pretty much undoing the entire frame rail. At that point, we, you know, may as well just put full frame rails in. But that's kind of the thing with these sort of jobs, they can really snowball. And this is, you know, we're trying to keep the cost reasonable on this one. It's not a full-on restoration. You know, it's not going on a rotisserie. We're not getting crazy with this car. We're just making it solid and nice. And I'm all for that. So I think what I will do is just cut out this section. I'm going to make a little panel for there. And we'll rebuild this little bit of flange there. That's easy enough. But first we need to put on our trunk dropout. So it's going to go right there. You can see that gives us the rest of our flange that our inner wheelhouse is going to weld to. So I think what I'm going to do now, it's almost the end of the day, so I think I'm just going to clean up these frame rails and stuff a little bit. Kind of like I did at the front, I would like to just clean this stuff up and brush paint some of these areas that are just easy to get at now. Then I can also paint these rear rails before putting the new parts over top of them. Not a real critical thing, but it just makes a nice cleaner job, in my opinion. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and do that, and I think we'll probably just see you guys back here in the morning and we'll start fitting more pieces. So here's a little floor panel I just made, just quick and easy. So we got rid of that rotten part of the floor, so the rest is all nice and solid still. Now I have just slipped this inner wheelhouse into place just to show you from in here how it fits. So if you remember when we drilled everything out on the inside, taking it apart, so we're going to have to re-weld all around here. Our trunk supports. So I don't have a flange on this edge yet. And you can see I've got a little bit of a gap there. My cut wasn't perfect, but that doesn't matter because I'm going to make a flange around that edge before this goes in for good, so that we have something to weld to around there as well. So, and yeah, this little piece we put in the floor, once it's got a little primer, a little seam sealer around it, you know, it's one of those things that's, you know, once the interior's in, you never see it again. So it is, yeah, it's going to be good. So now that we've got it so that we can install our inner wheelhouse, we're actually going to take that back out and move on to this trunk dropout, because that has to go in before the wheelhouse. So these dropouts fit really nice. So they just, yeah, fall right into place. That's pretty darn good. So these are easy, so I'm going to do basically what I did on the floor pans. I'm going to get underneath and trace out these frame rails so I know where to put holes in this part of the trunk floor, because we're going to be welding to these frame rails. So I'll drill some holes, plug weld to the rails, and yeah, these are super straightforward. So I've got our trunk dropout all clamped in place, a couple self-tapping screws to get it nice and tight. So I'm going to throw a couple of welds on it. We don't want to weld it fully, but we're going to fit our next piece. Clamp. Yep, nothing wrong with that. So you can see our next piece is fitting very nicely. So that tells me I can go ahead and finish welding our dropout. And once that is fully welded, we'll move on to our wheelhouse. That light is super bright. So this one I will be punching holes along there and welding to this flange. Right here we need to rebuild that little bit of flange on that piece we made, but that's going to be quick and easy. And then yeah, we can tack this guy in, and once that's tacked in, we'll fit the outer wheelhouse. And from there, it's, you know, it's pretty much ready for a quarter panel. So maybe we'll even get a quarter panel hung on this thing today. Get the start of fitting anyway. Let's see how far we get. Where'd my wheelhouse go? How the heck did I lose that? This has to roll ahead a bunch more, actually. Just a little tight in the back of the rocker there. This outer just needs to roll ahead just a little bit more, but I'm tight down here, so I'm just going to do a little hammering and get her to fit. Okay, so I turned off the camera for a few minutes there while I fought with this outer panel. I made one tiny little trim right there, that's it. Something I should have pointed out, these panels will always have alignment holes. So I fought with this until I got this hole lined up with the back panel and the same back here. So now it is where it needs to be. So I am pretty confident that I can just weld that inner into place. Yeah, and then the outer. So a lot of it, well, actually a lot of it has to be welded together. So Let me just see. Yeah, I guess I'll need to drill holes to weld to the frame rails here with the inner, but all the rest of it we're going to need to kind of drill the outer and work our way around. Now this flange in here I still need to straighten out a bit. So a bit more tinkering, but you guys get the idea. Like anything with this stuff, just take your time until it fits right. You know, these things can snowball so quickly. If, you know, that piece is out a 1/4 inch, and then that piece is out a 1/4 inch, and then that piece is out a 1/4 inch, by the time you go to put your quarter panel on, you're 3/4 an inch out. So it is that easy to throw these off. While these cars are not nearly as precise as modern stuff, obviously they still have to be correct to fit together. And like I said before, these aftermarket panels are all fitting really nice, so I have no issues with them whatsoever. So a little bit more, and then I'll be ready to weld this up. So I've been trucking along a little bit here, guys, and I am at the spot now where I need to make a decision on what I'm going to do with the quarter panel. Now, this whole wheelhouse assembly is in place, just with self-tapping screws right now. It is ready to weld, but I want to make sure the quarter panel is going to fit properly. Now, the quarter panel we got for the driver's side. So this is it on top, it's the damaged one underneath. So this is a partial quarter, only comes up to here, doesn't have that entire top, which is fine. I'm totally okay with that. But I'm thinking I might actually trim this full quarter the same way. That way I don't have to take this back glass out. I will trim it and butt weld it so that on the inside it looks seamless, so that we're not going to have an overlap of metal. And the other thing is at the back here, so now this corner, that's a piece I never thought of, so we need to salvage this. So I've trimmed everything else out of the way. So I think if I trim this quarter panel, I'll kind of cut it like that one to start. I'll leave a little bit on top so we can kind of fit it. And then probably I will cut through the quarter panel and this panel right around here and butt weld it. And then, like I said, it'll be seamless. So I think that's the way I'm going to do it. But I do want to fit this quarter before welding this inner, just to be absolutely sure. I am 95% certain we're right on the money, but that 5% can really bite a guy. So I'm going to do a little more pondering on this, and when we come back, I'll probably know what the heck I'm doing. Well, this might be a controversial decision, but I just cut the top off of that full quarter panel. So let's see. Pretty nice, actually. So it is just sitting loosely on there. It's obviously not right in place, but we're tight to our door jamb. Actually fits nice along the top, but we're not going to leave it like that. Now, this bit here has to go in behind, so but I just can't quite wiggle it in there yet. But even where it's sitting, we're lining up beautifully. Actually, even look at that alignment hole right there. and that's just throwing the panel on, and it is right where it needs to be. Okay, that one's a little off, but okay, yeah, we're not sitting right in place either, so nope, this is gonna work. I think that was the right decision. So I'm going to do a little more trimming. I want to get that up in behind where it needs to be, just so we can make sure we're sitting right. That's kind of interesting. There's a bunch of extra on the back of the drop off there. Well, it's right in place. It must be meant to be trimmed. Okay, a little more trimming. And once I know this is bang on, then we can move on to completely welding up that inner. All right, so it is, yeah, it's good. So I'm gonna go ahead and get all that inner welded up. The wheelhouse, everything can be welded solid. And then I can get a little paint on all the inners before this quarter panel goes on for good. I'm gonna run out of day here pretty soon, so I'm trying to get as much done as I can. See there. Ah, there's still a clamp on there. In there. Oh, bent the quarter. Alrighty, more welding. Well, so I have got a quarter panel just sitting on there. It is not completely lined up. It's still got a ways to go to get it right into place. But I have got rebuild kits for these hinges coming next week. I don't think I should weld that quarter panel on until I have the door really sitting where it belongs. So I think what I'm getting at is, unfortunately, I think I'm going to end this video here, guys. I started this with intention of getting this to fully welded up before I ended the video, but I think it's just going to go on too long. And it is, once again, the end of the week. And I don't know for sure when I'll be back to work on this thing. So as usual, it might be a little while. I need to get some time in on these other jobs as well. I've kind of stressed myself out. These 3 big jobs sitting here. So I think, like I said in the video before, I've stopped booking weekly work until I can really get on these things, because they're man, I've still got a lot of work to do on these cars. You know, the Hornet, the 52 Chevy, and the Mustang. They're big jobs. So anyway, enough of my babbling. Yeah. So I guess how much metal can we get on a Mustang in a week? I guess is this much. You know, I started this Monday morning. I already obviously had it all torn down, and then here it is, the end of the day, Friday. Quite honestly, the rockers and floor pans took longer than I expected. So that was 3 days pretty much just doing the rocker panels and floor pans. So if it wasn't for that, I'd be a lot farther along, but it is what it is. These things take time. So as always, guys, thank you for always checking out the videos. I hope to be back on this real soon, so I hope you'll come back and see the next video on it. I don't know when it'll be, but yeah, it'll be nice to get this thing all welded up solid and back on our feet. So, as always, guys, thank you for checking out my videos, and I will see you next time.